likely you will not make it.
Welcome back for day 6 of 10 solos in 10 days. Today we have an absolutely ripping solo from the band Persefone off the album Spiritual Migration from 2013. This is one of my favorite progressive death metal albums ever, and this is off the song Majestic of Gaia in the middle section. This is a really cool neoclassical inspired solo, lots of awesome scale and arpeggio ideas, so let's get into it. The tuning for this song is D standard on a 6 string. I'm playing this on a 7 string. I'm just not using the low string, but I am tuned down a full step. Now, Persefone does use 7 string guitars now, but back then they only used 6 strings. So the solo starts with this, which is a straight up E diminished 7th arpeggio. So diminished 7th arpeggios are symmetrical arpeggios built entirely of minor thirds. You can do that just 3 frets at a time on the guitar. Right? These are really popular with metal guitarists and really guitarists in general because they lie in the fingers really nicely and they're symmetrical, meaning I can move this up and down at will and keep the same shape. And this is all happening over an E. Well, I guess technically it's D because of the down tuning. I'm going to kind of talk about this as it relates to standard tuning. So it's down a step. These are technically, D minor, for example, but I'm just going to say E because I'm used to that because I play in standard most of the time. So for all of you with perfect pitch, you might hate me. But here it kind of then goes into this continuous lick that looks like this. I have it tabbed as quintuplets. It's basically just cram these 10 notes into 2 beats, essentially. So it's a diminished 7th arpeggio, and you get this note, which would be like the flat 2. So that leads me to believe this is from the half-whole diminished scale, which is a scale built by half steps and whole steps alternating. So half step, whole step, half step, whole step. We get a harmony of this that comes through halfway. Exact same shape, up 3 frets. Now this is a really cool shape and fun to play. It's a little bit weird to get it first, but it kind of rolls off the fingers nicely once you have it. Combination of sweeping and some legato. And from here, we're going to move into this next section where we have some actual harmony happening. And we use that same diminished lick from the beginning to get into the next section. I think that this lick here, I believe it plays 15 times if I remember correctly, and then it moves into the next section. So this next section here is super neoclassical inspired. It's a very basic chord progression. We have E minor for 2 bars, A minor for 2 bars, A over C sharp for 2 bars, and then C major. We're really in E minor kind of here for the most part. The first part looks like this. And that's over the E minor chord, all right out of E natural minor. Next, we move to A minor. That uses a lot of A natural minor, so it's basically switching scales to follow the chords here. Some classic sweep shapes. It's like a little bit of an A minor 7 at the top there. And then just some A minor scale runs. That's all 16th notes up to that point, and then here it goes to 16th note triplets with these classic Paul Gilbert 6 patterns. Something that a lot of shred guitarists do, and there's quite a few of those in here. From here we go to the A major chord. We have this big sweep, kind of a straight up metal 5-string sweep, but changes the top note around for a little bit of a melody. And we're into some scale runs there. So it's A major. That's A minor for these scale runs. Once again, those Paul Gilbert shapes. And from here we go to this neoclassical shape. We're going to see this a lot more in the next section, but here works up the strings in E minor. So that's over a C chord. As I mentioned, we're going to see this shape a lot later, and that's a pedal point lick where you're constantly going, in this case, up to that E. Very classically inspired, specifically Baroque music, your Bach, Vivaldi, all of that. So that's the first part of the solo, and then it moves into this next section. So this second section of the solo is very similar to the first harmonically, and it's really based off of this classical pattern I talked about earlier. It's going to be the foundation for this entire section. Now, I filmed my cover with 2 different camera angles because on the original recording, these parts kind of blend into each other. The end of the first section that I just talked about blends right into this next section. So I decided to record them separately. Live, I'm sure they have to kind of combine them together a little bit. But this first part looks like this. It's over an E minor chord. Our next chord is A minor. Looks like this. This same transition figure happens again, but you have kind of an extended version of it. And over the next chord, C. The same transition figure again. And then we have a D sharp diminished 7th arpeggio, which is your leading tone arpeggio from harmonic minor, in this case E harmonic minor. This is where you're going to get that diminished 7th sound again. Very cool section, super classically inspired. Before it gets into the third section here, there's a 2-bar fill, looks like this. And that's done in the rhythm guitars, and that moves into the third section of the solo, which is built entirely off of the D Phrygian dominant scale, which is the 5th mode of G harmonic minor. This is a really common scale in this kind of metal. I actually did a massive lesson on this scale using the riffs of Michael Romeo from Symphony X a few years back. If you want to check out that lesson, it'll kind of give you a deep dive into this scale. But it sounds very classical and a little bit Middle Eastern too in some cases. Very cool, very common in this sort of metal. Happens all the time, maybe the most common or one of the most common scales in this kind of music. And here they're doing it just kind of going off of the open D string continuously. And there's these little fills that happen in between that main figure. That one's cool, you have this chromatic idea. The next one is a diminished fill. That one I might not have exactly 100% correct in the tab. It sounds cool though. And then you have this last one. Very cool overall. And there's this section when the full band kicks in where they're cutting off a beat from the second measure, so you get a bar of 3. Very interesting stuff. And this is one of my favorite sections of the song. It just sounds so awesome, this riff, because it's doubled with an octave above, and it's doubled with keys and this harpsichord. Very classical, very cool. And that moves us into the last section. Up to this point, it's been basically straight 16th notes or 16th note triplets, really fast shred all the way through. And this last section is going to give us a little bit of variety rhythmically, as well as some bends and some vibrato, more like an actual guitar solo. This part is also harmonized or in unison with a keyboard almost entirely throughout. We're moving up to C minor here, so another key change, kind of right to C minor from where we were before. So D, Phrygian dominant, right to C minor. This is going to go between C minor and F minor throughout this whole last solo. It starts with this fast tapping lick in C minor. I recorded my cover a couple weeks ago, so I haven't played that in a long time. It's super fast, and I think at first I thought they were alternate picking it, you know? Which is even more of a challenge. Good alternate picking practice if you want to try it, though. But I watched a few live videos, and Carlos, the guitarist from Persefone, was tapping this. So you're doing 3 notes per string, but you're tapping the first note. Really good way to get these super fast licks going. That was a little bit better. And this is all over that C minor chord. From here, it continues. And there we're switching to a D flat, really a D flat major 7. Plays this F minor arpeggio over top of the D flat, which gives that F or D flat major 7 sound. Here it moves to F minor. More of these pedal point licks, and this is probably the hardest part of this entire solo for me. That's the one part in my cover that I think I played pretty sloppy, but it sounds really cool. The second half, the chord progression stays the same, but Carlos kind of implies a C major here by playing the major 3rd E and playing like a C Phrygian dominant scale. And then it's right back to C minor. This is over the D flat. And then F minor. Now over this F minor chord, we're playing a B flat minor arpeggio. And then it goes into a scale run. Somewhere inside that run, the chord goes from F minor to B flat minor. So the sweep kind of makes sense in that context, changing in the middle of it. And then you have this last transition section, which is C minor to A minor. Kind of an instant key change back to A minor, and then it goes into the vocals again.
It's likely you will not make it.
So there's a super shreddy solo by Persefone for day 6 of 10 solos in 10 days. I had an absolute blast learning this one. It was a real chop buster for me. I haven't done a lot of these neoclassical things in quite a while. I should probably do some more because it was really hard for me to do some of this stuff, but I think my final cover turned out okay. But if you enjoyed this lesson, please subscribe, hit the bell notification, like, comment, share, all of that good stuff. And I'll see you all tomorrow for day 7. Till then, stay proggy.